Good morning, friends. Hello, replay viewers. Hopping on here this morning to do a very brief scope. Hope some folks can join me. Go ahead and flip over the camera and get started. Hello, Melissa. Good morning, everybody. I used to do morning mama moments on Facebook Live, but I don't know if it's my phone or my internet connection or what, but Facebook Live does not cooperate well for me. So I've just decided that I'm going to stop trying to do mama moments on Facebook Live and do them on Periscope. And that means more interactions. It'll probably take me a little longer than 5 minutes. I used to try to keep them under 5 minutes, but the interaction is fun. So let's do it that way anyway. Good morning. So let me introduce myself. My name is Lena Sutherland, homeschool mom to 7. 4 of them are school-aged. 3 of them are baby, toddler, preschool size. You can find me online at homeschoolingwithouttrainingwheels.com, HSWO Training Wheels. My blog is homeschoolingwithouttrainingwheels.com, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at HSWO Training Wheels. I hope you'll join me. What I wanted to talk to you today about is being a professional. And Melanie Wilson, host of homeschoolscopes.tv, did a scope recently on professionalism and what it means to be a professional in her homeschool job, and that was an excellent scope. I would recommend it if you have a chance to check it out. But what I wanted to talk to you today about was something that my husband came home from work and was talking to me about, and he has a pretty typical corporate America job, and he was talking about how his company has changed the way that they do their evaluations and their employee growth and coaching. And so he said they used to approach it like this. You know, when you get an evaluation, your evaluator, your manager, would talk about your strengths and then your weaknesses. And then you would set goals for yourself based on kind of improving your deficits in some of those areas of weakness. So where here are some areas where you're a little bit weak. Let's see what we can do to improve those. Kind of the idea being, let's level out your skill set. Let's take the areas where you're weak, build them up a little bit so you'll be, more even across the board. Well, they came to realize that that really was not working. That people who had weaknesses in certain areas, whether that be, public presenting or managing other people or, being in charge of organizing steps for a large task or something like that, people who have weaknesses in certain areas are probably always going to have weaknesses in those areas. And it's not very realistic to say, let's change you from the kind of person who struggles with public speaking to the kind of person who doesn't struggle with public speaking. And so you know what they've done, and this is not a homeschool, this is in corporate America. So they've changed from saying, let's take your weaknesses and level them out with your strengths, and instead they've said, let's focus on your strengths, let's enhance where you're strong, and let's try to put you into roles where your strengths will be used to the best advantage of the company, okay? And so, again, this is really, I know they care about their employees, but really from a money-making strategy, from an efficiency strategy, this is what they've realized is more effective. Rather than trying to make your weaknesses into strengths, they've realized that it's more efficient, it's more realistic, really, to focus on what your strengths are, to capitalize on them, and to make the best use of those strengths that they can. And this, to me, has huge implications in the homeschool, okay? So I am not good at cooking. I don't enjoy cooking. Now, it's something that I need to do because if we wait for my husband to get home, we will never have dinner. And he's a fantastic cook, and he loves to cook, and he does a lot of cooking on the weekends. But, practically speaking, I need to do the cooking during the week. That's fine. But you know what? I'm never going to be the person who just loves cooking, the person who cooks because I just enjoy doing it, and it's a fun hobby of mine. And for years, I thought that what I needed to do was just to make myself be somebody who loves cooking. Yeah, Melissa, absolutely, totally could have implications for our kids too. Maybe I'll have to do a follow-up scope on that. But it has helped me to realize that my goal I definitely want to be a person who continues to grow, who continues to improve and learn new things. But my goal is not necessarily to reformat myself to be somebody else. My goal is to understand where I struggle, where I'm not gifted, and to take those things into account, not as an excuse for myself. Well, I didn't make dinner because that's not my thing. Things have to be done. I need to do even the things that are not my strengths, that are not my preference. But there are so many ways, and homeschool moms, you have so much freedom in this way. You have so much flexibility, more even than, my husband does in a corporate job, to design your homeschool, your schedule, the way you teach. So many things can be set up to play to your strengths. And I think sometimes what we do is we say, I'm really bad at this, so I better set up the schedule in such a way that it forces me to do this thing that I really hate and that I'm not good at. And look, I'm all for accountability. I'm all for, maybe get out of the way the tasks that you're not as fond of or something like that. But what if we really focused on saying, you know what, I'm good at this and I love it, and I could really convey to my children beauty and truth and goodness, because it would not be hard at all for me to have a passion for this. And it would not be hard at all for me to think of ways to share in the enjoyment of this with my kids. Hubby teaches math. Okay, right. So, and it's perfectly okay to delegate or to, get help, get support, right? So, again, I'm not saying that we just ditch anything that we don't like or that we're not good at. But, I think as moms, we are super excellent at just beating ourselves up, right? Just like we look in the mirror and be like, oh, I've got this bulgy part, and I've got this facial feature, and I've got, and we can pick ourselves apart any day of the week. We do the same thing with our homeschooling and with our parenting, right? If you want to know what somebody's worst flaws are, ask that person themselves, because they have a huge list in their mind of all the things that they're no good at and all the things that they're sure everybody is really disappointed with them about. We need to be a lot better at saying, these are the things that I'm good at, not in an arrogant way, right? But in, God has given each of us gifts. We ought to recognize the gifts that have been given us, not just, to puff ourselves up, but because he gave us those gifts for a reason, for the blessing of others. The home, the community, the church, right? Exactly, Valerie. Know yourself. Know yourself, okay? And by knowing yourself, it helps you to give grace to others, right? So I've said before that I'm a techie kind of person. I love the computer. I grew up with a dad who's a computer programmer. I manage my home in a very digital kind of way. It's what I love to do. It's fun for me. Not everybody has that background. Not everybody has that skill. So, moms who say like, oh, I feel overwhelmed about helping my kid to do this or that on the computer, it's okay, because I recognize that's something that I have a natural proclivity towards. I feel comfortable in that arena. That's not true of everybody. And we have to have conversations about these things. We have to, because sometimes what is perceived by somebody as kind of giving up, like for example with the housework, it's been a huge struggle for me to just kind of let go and say, the house isn't the way I want it. But I'm not going to, go around my day just gloomy and frustrated and angry because of that. I'm going to let go a little bit. I'm going to just admit that I'm not on top of that right now. That's not to say that I don't want to grow in that area. That's not to say there isn't room for improvement, but it's not doing me or anyone else any good to just remain in a state of grump until we get that under control. And so, and it's not a reflection on your relationships with your children. And so sometimes the things that I've worked very hard to be okay with while we're in process can be the hardest areas for somebody to be like, you really kind of should up your game on this thing because it's a balance, right? I mean, do I want to get better at organizing the house? Do I want to have better processes and routines in place? Yes, I do. But I have to proceed with that with an understanding of myself. And so if somebody wants to encourage or advise me on that, they also have to proceed with an understanding of me, not just how clean or not clean is my house, but internally, what's going on with me and what battles am I fighting on the inside to have a right view of what I'm called to do every day, what gifts I've been given, and how I've been called to use those gifts. So just to circle back around to what I said at the beginning, my husband's corporation has switched their focus from helping employees to improve in the areas of their weakness to helping employees capitalize on their strengths and to put them in positions within the company where they're playing to their strengths. So I would just encourage you to think about, especially over the summer as you're planning the fall, rather than thinking, how can I remake myself into the next door neighbor kind of mom or the, lady at church or whatever, Instead, think, what gifts has God given me? How can I use those gifts to strengthen, bless, and encourage my children, my family, my church, etc., etc.? Thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Melissa, it's not just you. I never can get the broadcast to stop.